Hey, high achiever. I know you care deeply about goals, performance, and accomplishments, but you might feel stuck sometimes. And that's where I come in. My name is Charlene Jefferson, and I am a certified high performance coach, here to guide you as you create intentional habits and routines that will get you to the next level. Whether you want to grow in your career, business, relationships, health, or hobbies, I'll help you propel your goals forward through the habit of living. Hello, and welcome to episode 3 of The Habit of Living, where today we're going to talk about a hot topic: quiet quitting versus quiet firing. I know you've probably heard about it either at your job, or you've heard about it on the news, or you've read several LinkedIn articles about quiet quitting and quiet firing. I'm going to go into detail about what those things are, and I want to hear from you about how they have impacted you if you've experienced it yourself or you know someone who has experienced it. And then I'm going to talk about, well, how do we have it all? How can we have the career of our dreams and do that without compromising our relationships or experiencing extreme burnout? Like, how can we have it all so that we can achieve or sustain some type of balance in life? And so we'll dive more into that in this episode today. So why don't we go ahead and get started? What is quiet quitting? So quiet quitting is choosing not to believe that work should consume one's life and that one must do above and beyond their job description. Now, if you're my age and you're probably like, well, I never, thought that, like who thought that when you pursued an opportunity, you researched a job, you went on, LinkedIn or Indeed, and you were researching a job and you were looking at the job description that was the only thing that you'd be required to do. I don't know that I have that idea or perception of the job description. In fact, I know better. I know that I'm expected to do above and beyond that job description because, of my role I've hired, as a hiring manager. So I look at the job description as here are the most important, details of the role and the most important skill sets that you'll need to have in order to be successful in this role. But I also know that there's a lot of things that are not listed, things in between those lines on those bullet points on the job description that you'll also need to do. And so, quiet quitting, this definition, hit or miss. I think that if you do believe that quiet quitting and you believe in this concept and this is how you want to, choose to live your life, then how fulfilling is that? Where you just do, the bare minimum that what's stated. Like, are you still learning? I'm inquiring. I'm not bashing anyone who chooses to do this. I really want to understand, like, if you choose to pursue an opportunity this way or take a job and say, I just want to do what's on the job description, are you fulfilled when doing it? Or is quiet quitting, more so a symptom of a bigger issue? So, for example, while I don't believe that many people set out to get a job to do just the bare minimum, I do believe, within that first 3 years of being hired into a role that people are really gung-ho about the position. For me, when I'm in a new opportunity, I am excited about it. I'm excited to add value. I'm excited to learn something new and to do something new and meet new people. I'm approaching this opportunity knowing that, okay, here's what I need to do, but I'm already thinking about the in between the line things, okay? So one of the things they may mention in the job description is that you need to have, good communication skills. That's a blanket statement. So, I need to be able to handle communication, whether that be oral or written. Maybe it's in more detail as far as the written, it's beyond emails or responding to emails. Maybe it's creating presentations. I need to be really good at that, or I need to develop the skill to be to be good at that. I believe that the underlying issue is that within that first 1 to 3 years, people are gung-ho about the role. They are excited to learn this new opportunity, and they've probably added value. They may have, stayed later, at work, past 5 o'clock, and they may have logged on a little bit earlier, or the early bird that gets the worm, and What has happened, perhaps, is that they've done that for, let's just say, 1 to 3 years with no recognition, with just, oh, a thank you, a pat on the back, but they've not been recognized the way that they should. They've not received a raise, they've not gotten a promotion, they're not giving opportunities to advance in their skill set or attend or be a part of leadership programs or whatever it is, right? They feel like they have not gotten a return on their investment of their time. And so at that point, they get into this concept of quiet quitting, where you dial back how much effort and time you're putting into your work because it seems you're undervalued. It seems like your time and your energy is not worth it to the company, or at minimum worth it to your direct manager. And so this concept of quiet quitting is coming in where you're like, okay, well, I'm just going to do the bare minimum. I'm going to do what it says in the job description, and if that's all you need and all you want, then fine. And that's where I feel like quiet quitting is. I feel like it is not how people start, but I do think it's a place or a symptom that people experience at a certain point in their career. And to be quite honest, I know this is talking in terms of, maybe corporate America or so, but I imagine as a business owner, you can also experience this. With that said, let me share a little bit of the details. So, quiet quitters make up at least 50% of the U.S. workforce, according to a Gallup article that was written last month. And it says that these employees' engagement took a step backwards, meaning it decreased just the second quarter of this year. And it says that while the employee engagement remained at 32%, that at the same time, employees who were actively disengaged was increasing to 18%. So they're correlating engagement and quiet quitting together. They're saying that it looks like those who are engaged at 32% has remained, consistent. However, we're seeing an increase in people or employees being disengaged. And why are these employees disengaged? It meant at one point, perhaps, that they were engaged. They were, perhaps a part of, raising your hand and taking the opportunities and learning something new and, being gung-ho about your role and excited about it. And at some point, it was no longer valuable. Or, these people who are disengaged just decided that the company's values, morals, and mission no longer excited them. They weren't feeling like they were getting developed, perhaps, in their role. They weren't feeling like they were learning anything new, like the company wasn't adding anything to them. And I think it's important in a relationship with companies that you both agree that you want to add value to each other. Like I'm looking at the job description, I can do this role, and I go in and I do what's on the job description plus more. And then the company also agrees that, okay, for that, I'm going to make sure you're recognized. I'm going to make sure you're valued, and I show you that you're valued through either, some type of, bonus or promotion pool, and, opportunities to engage with others who can advance you in your skill set or advance you in your role. This engagement is important. And so I ask you, have you experienced quiet quitting? Are you right now in feeling like this is you? Does this resonate with you? Are you quiet quitting right now? So with that said, I want to talk about quiet firing, because quiet quitting and quiet firing somewhat go hand in hand, right? And I mentioned, what the definition of quiet quitting is. It's feeling that you don't have to, go above and beyond, and that your work does not have to consume your life, right? And I totally agree with that. I'm 100% a proponent of self-care for sure. Now, at one point in my time in my life, I knew I wanted it was always on the table, but I didn't deem it as important as I do now. But all that came through experience, and learning myself. And I'll talk more about that as we go through. So, what is quiet firing? Quiet firing is when employers intentionally treat you badly so that you will leave your job. This article says that it's sort of like when someone wants to break up with you, but they don't have the courage to actually do it. So there was a LinkedIn news article that did a poll to see if quiet firing was actually a real thing. And it deemed that majority of people said that this is a real thing. And so I did a little bit of more research because I really wanted some examples of what quiet firing was so that I could share it with you. And maybe some of these things resonate with you because my listeners, I'm hoping that many of you are leaders, managers, CEOs, and you probably have experienced this, but you're now learning and listening to your employees, and you really want to make sure that they feel valued and that they are engaged. And, you're looking for ways to identify when they're not. And so here's some examples of quiet firing. Basically, if you have one-on-one schedule with your manager, they're suggesting that these one-on-ones are often or frequently canceled. Like you have your one-on-ones every Monday at, let's just say, 10 a.m. And then all of a sudden, every Monday at 9:45, your manager's like, hey, you have anything today? And I don't have anything to talk about, so let's cancel. If that's happening frequently, then perhaps you might be experiencing quiet firing. Or there's a lack of coaching and feedback. So in these one-on-ones, or if you have coaching sessions with your manager or others, and you're not getting the feedback you need, like you'll do a task and you're thinking, oh, okay, we're going to get in a one-on-one. We're going to talk about, maybe some of the, maybe some of the things I can work on, the opportunity areas and what you did well. And it's crickets. It's crickets in your development meeting. It's crickets in your coaching session with your manager. So perhaps, again, you're experiencing quiet firing. The article also goes on to say that an example of quiet firing is there's no recognition given. You don't get recognized for anything that you do. And maybe someone else is taking recognition for your work. Article also goes on to say that over-focus on busy work versus impactful work. So you're being given work, but you're being given busy work, something just to keep you busy and out of the way so that, whoever else they have in mind for opportunities can get those opportunities. You may be experiencing quiet firing if you are excluded from chances to work on exciting projects that give you the opportunity to gain new skill sets, to gain information and learn more about the corporation or your function, that give you the opportunity to meet other people in other departments. You may be experiencing this. So please, again, head over to Instagram at I am Charlene Jefferson and DM me your experience and tell me if you've experienced anything of this, because I think, again, that there's a bigger issue in that quiet quitting and quiet firing are symptoms of that greater issue. So head over again to Instagram, DM me your experiences, because I really do want to know, what are your thoughts about quiet quitting and quiet firing? Because I think these are big things, big topics in the news now, because over these past 3 years, we've been in this pandemic. And a lot of people have, been a part of this great resignation. I think over 58% of people left the workforce throughout this pandemic. They left their jobs. People are a part of this great resignation. Some people say the great reshuffle. I like to call it the great realignment, because I feel like people's priorities, they have been able to tap back into those and say, you know what? That's not important to me any longer. Working my ass off and, doing this for this company and not getting recognized and not getting what I feel like I need from them. That's not my priority. My priority is, my family, my kids, or my hobbies or my purpose or my passion. People are tapping in to themselves during this pandemic. We've talked about quiet quitting. We've talked about quiet firing. How are we seeking to balance our quest for more as it relates to work without compromising being more for our families, for our friends, and for ourselves? How can we have it all without compromising our relationships that are important to us? without compromising our well-being? How can we have it all? And so I think that's what this pandemic has allowed us to do, and I think that's what the great realignment is allowing us to do. It's allowing us to now have enough time to sit with ourselves and to see what has been going on over these past several years. Okay, I've been working, I've been staying late, I've been getting in early, I've been going above and beyond, and I'm doing that, and I'm doing it, and I'm continuously doing it. And it's almost like you're stuck in that hamster wheel of just doing something, right? And it's not giving you the return that you want. And you're realizing that. You're realizing you want more. You want more out of life, you want more out of your career, and you want more out of your business. And how can you have that with balance and without compromising, again, your health and well-being? How can you do that? I talk a lot about that in my one-on-one coaching program with my clients, where we really uncover in detail what it is that they want, not just out of life, but out of their career, out of their business, out of their relationships. What is it that they want? And how must they show up in order to set themselves up to achieving and reaching what they want? And so with that said, I read this article, and it was by Bain, and it was entitled Quitting or Refitting. And it said this, and this is what kind of caught my eye. It said, building and sustaining a high-performance culture by designing jobs, career paths, and work environments that embrace flexibility, interesting work, and continuous learning will be enough to get miles ahead of competition. Now, I agree. I mean, if you want to work in corporate America, I agree that it now comes down to more than just dollars, and it comes down to more than just time, but are they adding value? Is the work you're doing fulfilling? Is the work you're doing adding value to your skill sets? Is it increasing your skills? Or are you just showing up to a place to collect a paycheck? I love the article because it shows how this pandemic has given corporations and individuals the opportunity to revisit their vision and their mission. I talked about this in episode 2 about having a vision and understanding how that vision is attached to your future and how that's always exciting to us as humans. Being attached to something that's in the future is exciting. It can be scary and frightening. And so that's why, there's coaching to help you get through those things. But how do we, celebrate and create the rhythm, that's necessary to keep us in the momentum to get to that future goal? And that's the thing. This article is saying that people aren't feeling as engaged or connected to the work, as they once were. And so creating an environment where you have, good work for your employees to do that's interesting, that adds value to them, and giving them an environment that is, you're able to continuously learn and improve yourselves, it's going to get you ahead of the game. And while I agree with that, I believe that a lot of people, a lot of employees have now seen what it's like and felt what it's like to have greater connectedness with their families, being at home and working remotely. They've been now with their spouses and their kids every day on the hour, and what that was like. I know could have been chaos for some, but for many, once you got into it, it became the thing that was most valuable for you again, because you were connected to it. It was the thing you lived for now the past 3 years. And so that is now your mind about how that has made you feel about connecting with your kids and what they need, especially in today's world, how they need you more, and they enjoyed that connectedness with you, or your spouse. You were able to reconnect with your spouse during this time. That brought you great joy and excitement in your life. And I don't know that even if corporations set up this environment, which they should, no matter what, if people would choose that over their families again. Because once you have a taste or a glimpse of that connectedness and that relationship with your spouse that you knew was there in the beginning, but work kind of got in the way, or you got busy, and you were working, climbing that corporate ladder, and it pulled you away. And now you've had that again, and you're like, I don't want to give that up again. Is that you? Are you experiencing that? Again, I'm just giving my perspective on this, but I'd love to hear from all of you. Please head over to my Instagram at I am Charlene Jefferson. DM me your comments because I'd love to hear your thoughts on quiet quitting. I'd love to hear your thoughts on quiet firing and how this great realignment of priorities or how this pandemic has impacted you with your priorities versus work versus that life and relationship with your family. How has it impacted you? I'd love to hear about it. What I also like to say is that in order for us to have it all, I believe that there's at least 3 things that you can do. And I'm not saying you're going to have it all at the same time, but it is going to help you down the path of getting and creating that life of your dream, a life of abundance. And that is having focus, having control or agency, and your habits. Focus, agency, and control are going to help you understand what you want out of your career. It's going to help you understand what you want out of your life, what you want out of your business. Because when these things come up, such as the pandemic, yeah, they may throw you a little off course, but you're planned for it because you're so focused. You know exactly what areas you need to focus on. You know exactly what agency you have and what you can and cannot do and how you can operate. And because you have the right habits in place, you may have the influence and persuasion you need and the relationships you need to do the things you need to do while facing that challenge. And you do it all without compromising your well-being, without compromising your most valuable relationships. So how can you have it all? A great career, one that you don't mind working hard at or going above and beyond for, without compromising your well-being, your health, or your most valuable relationships, without experiencing that burnout. How can you have it all? Those 3 things I mentioned, focus, agency, and habits, will definitely get you on the right path towards having it all. So if you want to hear more detail about how you can have the career of your dreams or the business of your dreams and still have loving and lasting relationships, head over to Instagram, DM me, and let's chat about what you want more of out of life. Let's talk about quiet quitting. Let's talk about quiet firing. And let's talk about how this great realignment of priorities has impacted you. Have you realigned your priorities? Has this pandemic impacted you in a way that has shifted your thoughts and mindset on your priorities? Let's chat about it. I want to hear from you. Also, stay tuned for my upcoming webinar, 6 Steps to Success, where I tell you all about the 6 habits that the world's most successful people have and how you can have it too. So thank you guys for tuning in to episode 3, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Habit of Living podcast. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with a friend so we can grow our community. It would also mean the world if you left a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. If you want to connect one-on-one, follow me on Instagram at I am Charlene Jefferson or on LinkedIn at the link in our show notes. See you in the next episode.